Hey guys, and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to use DaVinci Resolve. So it's actually going to be a DaVinci Resolve beginner's tutorial. And so I'm also going to show you how to edit in DaVinci Resolve. But first guys, if you want, you can go down on this video in the comment section and click on the first comment that I pinned. This will bring you to my Fiverr, and here you can get a YouTube logo and banner or a modern minimalist YouTube logo and banner for your YouTube channel. But now back to the video. Now in my previous video, I actually show you how to download and install DaVinci Resolve. And there's actually a couple of steps that you have to do. So if you're not sure how to actually get it, or you just haven't downloaded it yet, so that you actually have the latest DaVinci Resolve installed. So if you want to check that video out, it's up here in the right corner. Okay, so as you can see, we are here in the project manager or the main menu of DaVinci. Here obviously you can do a new untitled project. So if you double click on this, you're gonna make a new project. Same button here, or you can open an already existing one. Here you can do the size of the videos or folders here. As you can see, I have two folders, but otherwise the videos are just gonna be here as well. To create a new folder, you can actually just go ahead and click this here. Up here you can also go to network or cloud. It also has a cloud, so that's also useful in case. And here if you click on this little button here next to projects, and on local database you click here on details. You can already see a location here, but also can do a backup, and then here you could do restore afterwards if you already have a backup. But it's also pretty important, and what a lot of people don't know when they just started out using DaVinci, where to actually save the project files and where they actually go. Now to know that, you're actually going to open file location here, and then up here you can see the path, which will lead you to Resolve project. So if you click it, then you do users and guest, click on projects. Here are the two folders that we saw earlier, but this time of course in your file explorer here as folders on your PC. And if you click inside, here will be all of the projects, so the videos that you've already done. And if you go inside, here's the actual project file, so it's a database file. So that's something important to know. Once again, not everybody knows that when they're just starting out, so keep this one in mind, it's pretty important. But if you're back here, you can just click on this little switch, by the way, if you want to hide it again. I'm going to double click the untitled project. Now it used to be a bit different, but nowadays it will immediately ask you for the name of the project. This would normally be later on down the line, but nowadays, before even creating the project, it wants the name first. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now you name yours, whatever you want. I'm just going to call this one tutorial for the sake of the tutorial, obviously. Here, also very important, before you click create, you have the media location. So you can actually change the location where this will be going. Once again, as you saw earlier, the location. This is just like a double check. So you can of course click on here if you really want to make sure where it will be saved. But we're just going to click create here. Now this should immediately bring you to the cut tab. I'm actually going to show you the first one here. Now briefly going to go over these because you won't really need them. So the first one is media. So you can put all your clips here and see which ones you want to take out. So cut is to actually, well, cut these already added clips. But here in edit is where we can actually do both, but more efficiently. That's why we're not really going to use these ones. And you're mainly going to work here while doing video editing. But if I show the other ones, so Fusion, it's a bit more advanced. I'm not going to go over it here, but it's adding some more technical effects basically to your project. Colors is where you can touch upon, well, of course, color grading, but also the highlights, shadows, saturation, and the clip will be showing right here. You'll be able to make those changes. Fairlight is basically a more advanced tab for your sound, where you actually have a loudness meter as well, and where you can work on your audio in more detail. And then the last one is delivery, very important. This is where you will be basically doing your render settings before exporting the project, which I'll obviously also show you at the end. Now here, if you see this little house icon here, it brings us back to the project manager. So we can just close this, just in case you need it. But more importantly, next to that, we actually have the project settings. Now that is quite important. So in the master settings here, as you can see, I have a timeline resolution 920 by 1080. I'm going to keep it at that because I actually have a 920 by 1080 resolution because my screen is 24-inch screen. So it has this resolution. Keep it at square. Actually, what I'm going to import here in a little moment is going to be 24 frames or 24 FPS. So I'm going to keep it at that. But if you're, for example, going to import gaming related footage that you actually recorded at 60 FPS, make sure that this is set to 60. It should basically match and be the same exact frame rate as whatever you're going to import. You can, of course, watch in the priorities, so right click and then watching the priorities of the video in question to see what the frames in your case are if you're not sure. We will mainly see this later on while exporting. We can go to color management here though and already make sure that the timeline color is going to be on 709 because Rec 709 is going to be very important because otherwise your footage might be a bit darker or maybe even brighter even though you don't want that. So Rec 709 is widely recommended here. Then Fairlight, as you saw earlier, that actually means the audio but more advanced. Something else I can advise is make sure what your audio sample rate is on. Now it should either be on 44100 or 48000. Both are good. I like to keep it at 48000. It's a bit more. And then as I said, we're good here. So if you made any changes, click save here. Just going to do cancel. Once again, some of these settings will come back later on if we're going to export. So don't worry too much about that. So I'm actually going to go back to the edit tab here. As I said, that's the one we're going to mainly use. And we are of course going to go ahead and import media here. So I'm going to right click, import media. So here are the 3 videos that I prepared and they are in 24 frames as I said earlier. Now if I take for example another video here just as an example, which is in 60 frames, so 60 FPS, it will ask me change project frame rate to whatever that video is that I just clicked. So the video that I just clicked is 60 FPS, but as we saw earlier, my project is actually in 24 FPS. So if I click change, it's going to be the FPS, the frames per second of the video that I'm importing right now, so 60 FPS. But since I don't want that, I don't want it to change because I want to upload my actual videos, which are in 24 FPS, I can do don't change. So that's actually very important, so do keep that in mind. If it is going to ask change here, it basically asks you, do you want the same frame rate as the project and the file in question that you're importing? Otherwise, say don't change. But as I said, I'm just going to import one of my videos here. And as you can see, it didn't ask for the message to change the frames, because once again, our project is in 24 frames per second, and so is this footage. So then I'm simply going to drag this into the timeline, so I can show you a bit of the video here. Now don't worry that it's playing actually quite slowly, because that's the way it has been recorded. So keep that in mind. Now when you've actually just dragged footage into the timeline, there'll also be two windows. So if I remove inspector, and I do dual viewer mode here, yours should be on by default. There's this preview window here, as you can see, and this is the actual window that we have from the footage on the timeline. So if I, for example, would have selected this video, dragged it into here, I could have first preview it before I actually put it on the timeline, and so go through it and say, for example, I want to start from this point here. They can do mark in or mark out, so I or O on your keyboard. You can see I just did I. Now I can just go ahead and go further, and let's say I want it until here. I can do the O from out. Now I only have this fragment of the footage, and so if I take this and I just drag, and I would have put it into the timeline, as you can see, it's only that fraction, that little part that I just edited, that I only want from that footage in question, and so I can immediately drag that into the timeline in case I want that. Often used if you have a lot of footage, of course. I want to only take out the parts that you want from that footage. This window is going to be very important to you. And if you only have one recording, because for example you recorded a game for an hour, and the recording is 1 hour long, and it's just one file here, you most likely will not need this window. I can just do this little square again up in the right corner and do single viewer mode. So now of course you're also able to edit on the timeline itself here. And let's say I want to start approximately here actually. Let's just cut off a little bit of the beginning. Now you might have noticed there's not audio here. So it did actually record an audio line, since it's one video track and one audio track, but there's no actual audio in this video. Now, the way this video starts, you could actually go ahead and put a fade in. Now you can actually simply do that by dragging this little white point here and then drag it. So this is 1 second, 2 seconds. Now I do think 3 seconds is maybe a little too long. You can do 2.5 seconds, or maybe like 220, that's fine. So you can of course do this faster. The more you put this here, the quicker it's gonna be. And obviously we can do the same at the end here. Might as well show you that as well. If you take this little dot, same here. I can do for example 220, and that is gonna fade out the footage. Now if I take this footage and I simply drag it up, so I drag it out of each other. If I release the mouse now, it will create a new video track, so as you can see video 2 and audio 2. So it will create 2 new tracks, 1 audio track, 1 video track, and that you can of course later on add new videos above, in case of course you need multiple audio or video tracks. But I'm just going to drag this down again without releasing the mouse. Now I'm releasing the mouse again, and it did not create those 2 tracks, because I, at the moment at least, don't need them. Now I actually hit it before to get the dual view, but if I take out the inspector again, we have some video settings here. So of course the footage in question we have selected, where you can do transform, so you can actually zoom, change the positions here. So up, down, left, right. You can also crop the footage in case needed. Do a speed change. So the more you're gonna bring this up, you can actually do this with an arrow, the faster it's gonna be. So now it goes faster and faster, the footage. Really depends on what you want, of course, and how fast you want this footage in question to go. But I'm gonna keep it at 100, which is the number that it is by default. So if you just want the normal speed, do 100. And of course some other extra settings here, but this is gonna be a beginner's tutorial, so I'm gonna go too much in detail of what all of this is. Some also speak for themselves. Now imagine I want to see this footage in full screen. I can select the letter P on my keyboard, and here it takes over the whole screen. You do have this little bar down here where I can do some minor changes. Now if I do escape on my keyboard, it closes the full screen again. Now if you actually go back to the cut tab here, full screen here would be a bit more clear, because you have it up in the right corner here and it just immediately says full screen, and it does the same thing of course. It shows you the full screen mode. Same, you can do this or escape to bring it back to the normal size. Now we don't really need to be here, so we're just going to go back to edit once again. I just wanted to show you it's a different way to get full screen. Now the letter P might not be usual for most people, because maybe you are used to using the letter F to do full screen, which is a more common one. And so actually how to change a keybind, so a shortcut if you will, within DaVinci Resolve is to go up here to the logo, so where it actually says DaVinci Resolve, and do keyboard customization. Here you have a visual representation of a keyboard, of course, and we saw earlier that it is the letter P, so you click on it. They do the first one, so basically it says application, and you want to click on whatever the command says here. It's a bit more detailed here, but we're going to go down to cinema viewer, basically meaning full screen. screen. And so we see there are actually two that are connected to this option. So we could actually do Ctrl F as well. F is probably already taken by another command within DaVinci. And so that's why the shortcut by default is Ctrl F, because F was already taken. And the second option here being P. Now, as I said, it's not very common, so I can just do the little X here. That will remove, unbind, if you will, the key on your keyboard. Just left click with your mouse within here. And now whatever you touch on your keyboard is going to be the new shortcut. So if now I would have done F. Now, as we thought, F is already assigned. So apparently to the timeline match frame, it will ask you, do you want to assign this keystroke? It's called in DaVinci. You can say either assign, but you will lose this one. So this will no longer be F, whatever this was. You will lose that. And the new F is of course going to be full screen. So you need to know for sure what you're giving up of a keybind here to actually go through it. So if you want to actually go through with it, you can do assign. Otherwise you do cancel. And of course also bind it to something that's not been assigned yet. Like for example, F2 right there. And now if you click save, you can also give it a name and click OK. And then the next time it's going to be, for example, F2. And if you actually don't want to change anything here, or you made a little error, you want to go back, just do cancel before you click save, of course, and do discard. So that's also very important to keep in mind. And this might actually help you a lot in editing, because you might have some shortcuts on your keyboard that you are used to while editing. But of course, if you're new, you can do something that's easiest for you. And now I did of course already show you this a little bit earlier on, but you can actually do a trim start. So you want the footage to start, for example, right here. You can do like that, and then you can also drag it back like this. Or if there's some blank space right here, you can select that blank space and do backspace. That will immediately remove whatever is empty within two video clips and remove that emptiness and directly, as you can see, stick it to the other clip. Very useful. Now, of course, the same goes for trim end. So if you look here and we maybe only want these 5 seconds here and the rest we don't really care about, we can also do the trim end, obviously. Just cut some footage that we don't really want. Now imagine I have this part right here, but I don't for some reason like this little part in between. I can actually also cut in DaVinci, which is very important. Now there are a couple of ways to do this. Now the first way, but definitely not the best way to do it, is the blade mode here. So if you click it, you can click to wherever you want it on the footage and it will cut it. And of course we can go here and cut it once again, so that we have a little thing in the middle here that you can, for example, delete or delete whatever is at the end here. So that's how you cut it. But I don't think that's the best way to do that. So if I actually go back here, undo something, it's actually going to be Ctrl Z, as you can see. If I do it once more, it goes back to the previous action. But by far the best way to actually do this, and once again you can change this in the keybinds if needed, is Ctrl and then B. So the letter B. You hold Ctrl and you click the letter B, and we can, once again I hold Ctrl and I click B. It's of course way easier because you have your fingers immediately on the keyboard, and so you can actually edit quicker that way. Because if you all the time you have to do like a mouse, then manually do the blade tool here, select it, cut it, you know, it's gonna take way too long. So that's why Ctrl B is definitely the way to go. And once again, if you don't like that, as we saw earlier, you can actually change that keybind if you really don't like to do Ctrl B. But I'm just gonna do Ctrl Z here because I didn't really need to cut this part. Now if I do, for example, have a cut between two clips, I can move this away, you can see right here. But they most likely gonna stick together if I approach it again. And it's actually going to be a magnet tool, so a snapping tool rather, which I can also unselect. But if I unselect it, it's not automatically going to stick to the clip. It can easily overlay. And watch out with this, because this actually means that you will lose all the footage that I'm removing right now. As you can see, all that I'm pushing is getting removed, so be very careful with that. And so if you don't just obviously want to not even overlay but overtake this, click the snapping tool here. It automatically, when it approaches the other clip, snaps to the other clip. Very important tool. Now it should already be selected by default, but in case it's this one up here. Also, if you want to know how to actually remove the audio from the video, I can just make sure that I select these two. Now if you right click, all the way down here you can see link clips, and it's been selected. Now here you also see the shortcut Ctrl plus Alt plus L. If you click this, they are now unlinked, and if I click, for example, away here, I can now both move them separately. Now if I, for example, want to remove the audio because there's no audio anyway, I can just go ahead and do delete on my keyboard and it'll be gone. Now if I just bring back the audio here, you can as well, by the way, there's a little bonus that I mentioned, just bring this up a bit if you want this to be bigger or smaller. Basically, if both of the clips are back again here together, I can select both. So you do it by doing Control, so you select one, hold Control and select the other one. So now they are together. So make sure those are the only two that you have selected. Right click again and do link clips, and they'll be linked again back together. Now if you want to zoom in on the timeline, you can do Alt, and to zoom in on a specific point. Right here, as you can see where the cursor is. Of course, if I scroll down, it's gonna zoom out. What you can also do, for example, is actually use Control and the scroll, and this will actually go through the timeline. So as you can see, it's the beginning, and here we go a bit further down the timeline, and I do that by doing Control and scroll. So that's not actually zooming, that's going through the timeline, if you will. And I can zoom out again. Now if you actually want to zoom in on the clip that you imported, we have that back here in video settings. I mentioned it a bit earlier, but basically if you take this little arrow here, we can zoom in. So now as you can see, zooming in on the pine. We can also zoom out, obviously. Now of course it will be out of the resolution that this has been imported in, so to have black bars on the side. And if you want to make sure it's back at the right value, just make sure it's 1 here, so 1.000. You can do enter and it'll be back at what it used to be. Or of course do Ctrl Z if actually made an error. So that's really the two ways, if you will, to zoom in DaVinci. Now, so I have this media here, but I actually want to import a second one. So I can just go back here, right click and do import media. Now, of course, I'm going to import video 2. Also drag this in the timeline. Once again, as you can see, this will create the new video and the new audio clip if I release the mouse right now. But if I put this over the first footage, it's going to have a priority, as you can see. So whatever video clip is above the other one, so to have the priority. So you see this rather than that's what underneath. But I'm just going to place it next to it. So I'm just going to drag this down here and release the mouse. So the left mouse button whenever I'm happy with where to place it. Now, of course, same snapping tool, it will stick to the other video. Now here, I'm not going to keep it too much. See, there's a bit of shakiness as well in the footage there. Once again, you can do this in preview. Take a little bit off the beginning maybe. But I'm quickly just going to do it like this. Let's say take this part. Now, we've been editing for a little bit here, but it's also, of course, important in between time to actually save it from time to time. Now, if I go to file here and do save project as, it's of course going to be the name of our project plus the word copy after that. So you can actually go backspace and remove that and do save. It asks you to overwrite the existing project. You say overwrite, of course. Now, that's the long way to do it. The shorter way to do it, most of you might know it, is the Control and then S. So, and you do first, you hold Control and then you click on the letter S on your keyboard. This is basically a little autosave, because up here, if it's been a while since you've edited, you can actually see a red word that says edited. So basically meaning that it's time to save the project. So don't forget that in between, of course, very important, because you might lose progress and saved upon that point. Now we have these two video clips here, but if we play this, there's no transition, it just goes from one clip to the other. Now if you want a transition, we can go up to effects here, video transitions, and select any of these right here. I can scroll down here. Now a lot of these probably won't be ones that you actually want, speaks most to you, that you think will be fitting for your clip. Now these 6 up here are what are used the most. So if I actually go over them and have a preview of what it looks like, see if I just go with my mouse, I go through a preview of what the transition is going to do. Now pretty classic one is going to be a cross dissolve. So if I drag this in between the two clips, if I zoom in a little bit here, you can see it just audited right here. Now doing this, so taking it by the corner, it will actually make it longer or shorter, depending on, of course, how long or short you want the transition to be. So this is going to be very short. You're barely going to see it. And this is going to be quite long. Now I actually want it a little bit longer here of a smooth transition, let's say. So let's say something like this. Here you have some other settings, so the transition settings. Here you can once again change it. Duration, here are some other little settings that you can also apply. Now while we're here, we can actually just go ahead and go down to titles, of course adding text over our footage. Now same, if you go like this, it should preview a bit what it's going to look like. Now sometimes there's a little animation here, but most of them are still, like for example this basic text, which is actually what I'm going to add. So if I put this up here, this is actually also going to be the length, so this is going to make it shorter and this is going to make it longer. Now so you just have to find a part where you want to add the text. I think I'm going to add it towards here maybe. Now actually don't want it to be in the middle because it's going to be in the way of, in this case, the plant. So I can actually go down here and change the position. So you do this with the arrows. And so we have the X and Y position, of course, being up and down, left and right. I want it to be a bit more in the corner here, maybe around here. And of course also do zoom, if you want it to be bigger or smaller in this case. I could have also done alignment, so in the middle, on the right. And here, of course, you want to type what the text actually says. Now I'm just going to type nature here, why not? Just as an example. Of course, change the font. There can be a lot of different choices, depending, of course, as well if you have different fonts installed. So the more you have, of course, the more you have access to here. So I actually like this one, so I'm going to select it. It only has the regular option, otherwise it would have been bold or maybe italic. The actual size of the font, so not zooming in, because that might actually remove some of the quality of the text. You really actually just want to change the size right here if you want to make it bigger or smaller. Now you know what, I'm actually going to do it at like 105, not taking up too much of the screen. Now it just comes in like this. There's no transition, there's nothing there. So what I can do then is actually add a fade in, as we saw earlier, but this time to the text. So maybe if I do like around a minute maybe, comes in a bit too soon. Let's place it right here. That's already better. Maybe if I prolong this clip, it's going to look a bit better. Otherwise it's going to go way too quickly into the next clip. So if you play this once again, you have the transition going slowly into the text. Now, of course, I did nothing at the end, so it's just gonna disappear. Obviously, I would have to do a fade out if I wanted to go out more smoothly. Same, let's just do 1 second. If I remove effects here, so if you want to hide this, just click on effects. Once again, that will hide it. And if I right click, once more do import media, I'll import my third and last video. Just gonna place this towards the end. Once again, adding a cross dissolve here. And I can only place it here, so I'm gonna do it here. Let's see. And that's actually fine by me, so now I can play it until the end. And let's say I cut it around here. So once again, I just do a trim end. And so at the beginning, we added a fade in of 2.20 seconds, which I'm going to do here as well. Let's see, make this a bit longer. So I'm going to do 220 here as well. And let's see how that looks. And then it should fade out here. So that would be the end of the video. So I'm just going to hide the effects here. So that would be all of the videos. Now if I put this up a bit, I can use this tool here. One line, and you can just put this up. So I can see it better. I'm actually going to right click, add track, and do stereo. Always do stereo. This is going to add a new audio track. Now I can right click here and do import media once again. So this time adding a song. So I actually went to a folder where there are MP3s. Make sure you do add something that is non-copyrighted in case you're gonna use it of course for YouTube or anything else. Or if you're gonna use it commercially in any way. So by clicking the one you want, now I'm gonna choose this one. Drag this onto the timeline, of course on the new audio track. Now don't do anything yet. As you can see the waves are quite high, meaning it is quite loud. If I play it right now it's gonna be quite loud. And of course you don't want that. Might actually scare you. So the very first thing you want to do is change the volume. Now of course it's really nice because it already automatically opened the audio tab here, so audio inspector, and we can change the volume. Now if you're recording a video yourself and there's like a voiceover like I do right now, and I have background music playing, I would advise you to put the background music at least at like 35 to like 45, 50 maybe at times, depending on the song of course, how loud it is. Make sure you adapt it to your voice being in the foreground and the music, obviously the background music in the background. Now here there's no voiceover, nobody's talking in those clips, so I don't have to put it that low, the volume. You can just see right here. But if you want it to be quite calm, you can actually do -25. But of course here you have to choose. Now I'm actually not going to do it too loud because I'm recording a video right now. As you can see, it does show you a bit. If that's too calm, of course, you might want footage with way louder volume. You can, of course, put this up here. Now, if it goes into plus here, watch out. It can get pretty loud pretty quickly. Of course, this means it's clipping, that it's way too loud. Really watch out with that, because it can get too loud too quickly, and that's going to hurt your ears. So really watch out for that. As I said, I'm just going to keep it quiet for the purpose of this video. What I can do then is actually do Ctrl B to cut it here, or we're going to do trim end here, but it's better of course to cut and remove the rest, a bit easier. You can of course also add a fade in. Now what you can do is actually put, for example, the fade in of the song as well. So we just once again take this little white cursor here, and now the intro is going to be as long as the footage to come in. And then same of course for the fade out. I believe it was 220 as well. Now if we're done here, we can actually save the project. I'm going to go to deliver. Now I already have my own settings here. These are the settings of my channel. First of all, I do browse. So it's going to browse, for example, the location of where I want to save the video. Call this whatever you want. In this case, by the way, call it tutorial. So let's save that right here. So that's of course where it's going to be saved to right now. File name and location. Make sure that the format is on MP4 here. Codec H264 and auto. And then here in audio, you can do AAC and then 320. So you can bring this down to like 160. I like to have 320. It works fine for me. It's the best quality. Timeline resolution should be the same as the footage. In this case, 920 by 1080. Once again, we saw for the frames per second, it should be 24 as the footage was also in 24 frames. Encoding profile, put it on high. It's going to be quality, best, square, full. Make sure it's full. Otherwise, it's going to be parts of the video. I don't want that. Just make sure it's full. I also mentioned this at the beginning. Make sure it's Rec 709 and Rec 709A in this case. Otherwise, your recording is going to be a bit darker. It's going to look like the gamma has been affected. So I definitely advise you, whatever you're recording, to have at least DaVinci set on Rec 709 and 709A here. This you can leave like this. You can also, by the way, check this if you want. The rest not very important. And you also have the subtitle settings in case if you have, of course, subtitles in the video. But for me, all of this is good right now. So I'm going to do Add to Render Queue. It's going to go up here in the right. And we can do Render All. Now, as you can see, it's going to go through the whole video and render everything. Now, obviously, it was a short video, so this actually goes quite quick. It is pretty fast at rendering. Now, of course, it depends a bit also on the settings that you put right here. But if you just do the settings that I just did, you already have really good quality. Now, if you want something specific, make sure you look into that and put that here instead. But for the rest, you can go with some of those standard settings. Very important. So now, actually, when we have this, make sure it says completed here. Go ahead and close this. And then if I go to actually my file explorer, I also went to the location where it actually has been saved, as we saw in the render settings. If I click on it, I am going to put the volume down here. If now we check out the video, of course, then it goes into the transition at the end here too, and of course the fade out with the music. So yeah, there you have it. Simply as an MP4 right now, you can use it. So there you go. That is a beginner's tutorial on DaVinci. I really tried to cover the basics, nothing too advanced, so that you really have an idea how you can use all the necessary tools within DaVinci here. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, of course. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Please leave a like, would be really nice. Subscribe would also be really nice, and hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye.